mine's a bit different. So I've been asked this question several times throughout my life, and um, I still don't know why this is the case, but from a very young age till now, I have not had any childhood heroes, and I don't know. I've tried to pinpoint like why that is. I have a feeling it has something to do. There's some sort of thing, some connection to that, and my more religious upbringing. I think there's something in there about like maybe I'm tying like idolatry to like childhood heroes or something like that. I'm not sure where that came from. Um, that's obviously a misappropriation of that of that. But as a kid, I could see myself thinking that. But there was something always about um, even when I was little, I never wanted to put somebody on a pedestal because I had seen too many of them become not great role models, I guess. And I think that's something that we see it a lot today, where you're seeing a lot of the people we grew up admiring turning out to be, you know, pedophiles or rapists or whatever it is, whatever the case, right? And it feels like I don't know if I would want. I don't know if like I look at my friends who have idolized certain people, and kind of the unique kind of depression that it causes, like when they find out that these people are not who they thought they were, and it almost feels like I don't know if I would want that, like when you idolize someone who turns out being to be a bad person. um it almost calls into question all of the good that you pulled from them. Does all that evaporate, when it turns out that this writer you admired your whole career ends up being, like a like a scummy person? Does Is it right to, like, go back and, I don't know, I guess it kind of leans into a little bit of people's legacy, and does our legacies erased when people when it's found out they're bad people or whatever. But I don't know. I've never. I have like no answer because I've never I've never
Just
looked
say
up
you
to
love
somebody.
Bill Cosby. Like, just get it out. Just...
Yeah, that's what kept coming into my head, but I didn't say it. But yeah, I don't know. I've never. I'd like to pull like a positive from that, and that is, um, I guess when you have no one to look up to, or to kind of like use as your north star, it really does. It forces you to just try and figure things out yourself. And that's always kind of propelled me, is that I've always competed with myself. So I never look at somebody else and say I want their success, or I want their whatever. It's That's always been irrelevant to me. I've always been like, no, I just need to do better than the last time I did that thing, right? And so that's always been something that's motivated me and pushed me, is just always making if I make myself if I make myself my idol, I have to keep getting better, or else that gets pretty stale really quickly. So I guess that's my answer, which is kind of lame, kind of sad actually, but that's all right. That's me. That's mine.
Yeah, I remember my when I wanted to work on like a book about my life, I was gonna call it "All My Heroes Are Perverts" because like it was around the time that like literally everyone I liked, Louis C.K., like so everyone was just getting canceled one after another. But um, I'll go last. But yeah, John, you can jump in.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, similar to Ellie, I think family was always big. Like my parents, I always looked up to, and my grandparents, particularly my grandpa. Um, on my mom's side, I didn't know my grandpa on my dad's side, but um, yeah, they meant a lot to me. But then, like I always looked up to creative people, I guess. Um, Even before I knew that I wanted to be a creative person for a living. Like, yeah, I mean, I loved Superman growing up. Like when I was really little, I wanted to be Superman, and I thought that was possible. For a long time. This gives you an idea of just like the level of intelligence that I had, and maybe still do. And like people like John Candy, I
Nice.
loved John Candy growing up, just because like I was, and this kind of sounds bad, but when I was a kid, I was sort of struck by just how funny he was and how everybody seemed to love him. And he's this like bigger guy that doesn't really fit the mold of what society had. And I was very aware of that kind of early on. And then I just saw the documentary about him, and it kind of confirmed all those things. So that was kind of gratifying. And then I had like a whole bunch of musical inspirations. Like John Williams was definitely one of them. And still is to this day. Billy Joel, still to this day. Um, yeah, like hero is an interesting word. Like I would say I have a whole lot of really strong influences in my life that have shaped me to be who I want to be. Not necessarily who I am, but who I continue to strive to be. And yeah, that's kind of, yeah, I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, there's lots of individuals, I would say. I think it's important though. And I think it's important that we all have like something to look to or something. Yeah. Some sort of hero image. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy, get on it.
Yeah. Like
I will say, if
Jeremy.
we're including fictitious people, I would say Donatello, or like
Or Raphael.
He-Man. No, not Raphael. Come on,
Or Michelangelo.
no, too much of a party.
Leonardo.
Donatello was a thinker. That's why I liked him, and I liked
He had the
He-Man.
stick.
Yeah,
He had the stick though. I liked the stick, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. Jeremy and I, we grew up liking Leonardo and Donatello, but when I got older, I realized everyone hated those. Like they were the least favorite turtles of everyone, and I was like, "What? They're the great. They're awesome."
I like
So,
Donatello. He was the smart one.
Yeah.
yeah, people think he's like
Yeah.
so lame, but I'm like, no, he's like just he's like the, the tech, whatever, the smart
Yeah.
brainiac guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took this topic and went completely into like the influence angle of like who's influenced me. Like Jeremy, I don't in that phrasing of like childhood heroes, I didn't really have any of that impacted me in the same way, but I do have a ton of creative influences, and I keep I have a list of everything in my phone because I'm a psychopath, but I do have I keep track of all this kind of stuff, and so I had a pretty easy list to go through. From a young age, obviously, I had Larry David was like and Jerry Seinfeld. They kind of raised me on my comedic sensibilities. I always joke that I was like a neurotic Jewish person at the age of 5. Like I just had that. I don't know. Seinfeld just really penetrated my brain and made me like just them essentially. At a really weirdly young age. And then around like grade 5, there was like Matthew Perry from Friends. Norm Macdonald was huge for me. Norm was just like, I loved his delivery. I even liked his TV show, The Norm Show, that not a lot of people watch. But yeah, I just liked his like big gangly awkward voice, and I remember it like really influencing even the way I spoke at school and like trying to tell jokes. So like a mixture. It's just like really a lot of my influences are all like comedic people. Adam Sandler, even for a time, was big in there for me. And then in like junior high, it moved into like, there's 3 I have written down here that are kind of in the same space, but Tom Green and a guy named Darren Jones. He's a Canadian, like Much Music, like VJ. He started off on like YTV, but he was doing like those kind of person on the street type things. And I've always loved those. That's what Tom Green is why I loved the idea of like talking to people on the street. And I used to do that like when I was younger as well. I would record myself just like interviewing people and pranking them and stuff. And so like those guys were really big on me for a while. And then in that same mix, Johnny Knoxville with Jackass and stuff like that, more his style. I always in like high school, I loved Johnny Knoxville's fashion sense. I thought he like dressed really cool, and so I would try to dress like him as well in that phase of my life. And then around high school, it became more that's when I discovered like Wes Anderson, and so like I loved his visual look of things. That started, and that's when I started to think like, oh, I could be an actor. I want to make things. His sense of humor, the awkwardness of his sense of humor, I thought was so unique. And I discovered Royal Tenenbaums in high school, and it was before like none of my friends were really watching these kind of movies. It was kind of an oddball movie at the time, and when I watched it, it felt like I was like, oh man, like this is such a me movie. I cannot believe this exists. It's so weird, and like the comedy is so awkward and disjointed. It just feels so bizarre that this even exists, and that really hit home to me. So that one was a huge inspiration on me. And then on the complete other side of the spectrum, not necessarily their movies. It's kind of weird, but Broken Lizard. They were the guys behind like Super Troopers and like Beer Fest and Club Dread. Their movies aren't like amazing, but like I love the idea of just friends grouping together and making movies, and that was kind of like Monty Python, that kind of thing. So that was kind of the genesis behind my early years of like I want to just get my friends together and make movies together. And so I always looked to them as like inspiration of like, yeah, you can just like meet up, write jokes together, film it, and that seems like a really fun way to spend your time. And then from there, DiCaprio was probably my first like acting influence. I always really liked his performances. He's one of the few actors who I will usually go see. Like I'll watch any movie he's in just to watch him. And then I was trying to think because I hadn't updated the list in a really long time, like years and years and years, and I was like, who would I add to this list? And I think Vince Gilligan, who did like the creator of Breaking Bad. Um, I think he would be. I haven't done anything that I would say is directly that you could tell, but like his writing and his slow burn approach to things, his patience, the way he will spend an episode just really taking his time, but in a really smart and artistic way that's still somehow engaging. I really love that. I think it's like a really elevated approach of making things. Sometimes I think he goes a bit too far in it, but I love when there's a really good balance. And I think Breaking Bad is still his best balance of that, where it's like really fun, accessible. Anyone can really watch it, but there's really artistic shots, artistic written stuff. And so I would like to one day be able to have to be able to do something like that at some point. Whenever I write screenplays, it's in the back of my mind. I don't get to write things like that right now, but yeah, I can definitely see that being something I want to insert into some future projects of mine if I ever get the ability to or the opportunity to do that. But yeah, that was all entertainment focused. But I was just trying to think of everyone who's ever like influenced me, and they're all, yeah, a lot of comedians, comics, and there's even more too. But yeah, that's a healthy list, I think, for now. Um, yeah.
Kind of hearing everyone else share their heroes made me. It reminded me of a question I had when I can't remember why, but the thing that I was always wondering was when you were a kid and you engaged in something that you were passionate about, whether it's like movies or books or whatever it is, movies or music, something like that. Did you did you immediately connect the thing that you enjoy to the idea that, oh, somebody made this, like so there's somebody behind this thing that I really enjoy? And I think that's where my lack of heroes comes from, is that when I was a kid, I was very like one dimensional in terms of like how I if I played a video game, I was enjoying what's on the screen. I never thought about, oh hey, there's someone who made this. Like there's a programmer who made what's on the screen, there's a sound guy, there's a music person, whatever. Same with movies and music. And that's something that I've always wondered, is like, do is everybody like that, or is that was that something that you learned over time, or did you immediately say like you saw a movie and you're like, man, I want to do that, like I want to be a director, like someone made this, you know?
Just to piggyback off of that,